Should probably be saying something anyway. Let's get that over here. Hopefully this is showing up. Oh, there we are. Now live. We need that. Well, apparently that's coming through. Okay. Well, we go live in 10 minutes, and apparently our throat is going to seize today. This ought to be a fun one. Just thought of something. Hopefully today is Saturday. Yep, it is. Okay. Well, greetings, Lawrence. Well, we'll take your word for it on the good morning thing. Last night we had a real wonderful time. Blood pressure just all of a sudden spiked to 100 and somewhere in the neighborhood of 190 over, I think somewhere around 94, which is not a good sign. So we're fine now. Temperature or the whatchamacallit, our pulse is back down to normal. The neat part about it, we were running, spiking such a fever and radiating such heat. Usually, and I was just telling my other half this, usually I end up, I've got a bottle of ice water beside me, right, just on the counter beside me, or on the bedside table. And it'll still have ice first thing in the morning. This morning when I got up, I actually had 3 there last night. This morning there wasn't, and they said about probably, well, they're on a bedside table, so it ain't that, it's, a good 1.5 feet away sort of thing. All 3 of the bottles were completely, the ice was completely gone. And to give you an idea, totally offset note, that's the size of bottle. It's usually that full of ice. And I had 3 of them that were sitting beside my bed. When I woke up in the morning, the bed was soaked and the ice was all melted. But I don't have any reference as far as what caused the problem. So I'm still a little off today, but all my blood pressure what have is running normal. So no, we are drinking water today because I figure it boils down to, I might be a little off because of simply because of the temperature spike and what have you. Probably blew half the system, but I'll be fine. But no, I got thinking about it yesterday, and it's always a toss up for me. I've got a list here of the different things that I'm dealing with. And I was going to be talking about healing today, and I'll probably tie that into it. But I've got my list of different topics that I'm going to be discussing over the next number of weeks. And I just check them off as I get them covered. Well, I was going to be talking about healing, and then something dawned on me, and I guess this really ties into it. But understanding, of course, that I'm not a medical doctor by any means. Morning, Dogface. How we doing? Oh, I need this open so I can actually read things a little easier. And there we go. Now I've actually got the video close to me so I can actually read it. But no, I got thinking about it, and I discovered, understanding I'm not a medical doctor, but I found a link between a psychological link between people that are overweight and people that have a tendency of collecting stuff, as in pack rats and hoarders for the most part. But it could be any number of things that people collect. Basically, it boils down to a link between excess weight and excess stuff. Now, the intriguing part about it from my standpoint was, as soon as I made the connection, it made curing both of them, if we are not talking medical problem, medical being an actual physical, pituitary, thyroid, adrenal gland complication, okay, then weight can be dealt with in this fashion. It will certainly help if you even if you've got the medical, right? But I found a link that actually combines all of them, and like, I'm just holding off getting really into it for the next 10-15 minutes here. Oh yes, very important little factor here. One thing I find really interesting, some people put these in, right? Some people, when they're asking questions, they'll put them in, right? But because they write them small, they don't stand out to start with. So, and needless to say, my ability to type right now um, is a little limited with last night. So hopefully, you guys are doing well. And we're just seeing where things are. Oh, what was the? I gotta look at that, because I think we were doing quite nicely as far as the overall site goes. Ah, okie doke, Lawrence. We will catch up with you in just a couple of minutes here. Better to run into it than drive into it anyway. Oh, what the heck? I just went into YouTube here. Good morning, Elaine. I just literally turned on YouTube. I wanted to check what my subscription level was, and the first thing I see is this ad, if you will, but just a one of the indicators on YouTube, and the title is "This Amusement Park Should Ban." I kid you not, they've got a roller coaster type setup that they literally catapult people into the air, and it looks like, I haven't run the video yet. It's a half-hour video, so I'm not going to be running it, not right now while I'm on air. But they literally, the people are in their seats, and it looks like they're like the seats are chained together, and then they literally catapult them into the air. I mean, you want to rush, that'll do it. And they catapult them off one side. The loop is not complete. Right. So you go up the loop, it catapults you into the air and catches you on the downside of the same loop. It's a very bizarre setup. Just thought I'd mention that, considering what I'm looking. I went to look for information on my own channel here. And there we are. We are at 279. Yeah, I agree with you, Dogface. I got no problem with heights. I got a problem with the landing. I don't. For me, it's a simple issue. I can go as high as I choose, as long as I've got a 3-point hook, a 3-point contact. But because my balance is in question, I like roller coasters, but that one, no, I'm not getting on that one. At least because in my eyes, you can really have a problem. But I'm pretty certain since it's up and running that they've tested it in every way possible. I remember going when I was a kid, we had a giant Ferris wheel here that we used to go to. And they always had the sign. Like, this is before they put the guards on the sides of the Ferris wheel seats. They always had a sign, keep your hands and arms inside. Well, of course, some genius back then didn't pay attention. They stuck their arm out at the wrong time and tore the thing off. The following year, they had this law up that you had to have panels on the side of all the seats to stop geniuses from doing that. I mean, they did the same thing with the roller coasters. We used to have one here, and they literally would tell you, remain seated at all times. Well, this is an old wooden roller coaster. And I always wondered, well, okay, why would you stand up? Or for that matter, because it's supposed to have a lap bar. How could you stand up? Welcome back, Lawrence. And then I rode the road because I swore I was going to ride it one day. And it turned out rather intriguing because I get into the thing, and yeah, it had a lap bar. But I was an adult at the time, and I was wearing platform boots, boots with a 2-inch heel on them. And when I sat down, the bar went across my lap. Well, went across anyway. But I literally had to bring my feet up onto my tippy toes to trap myself in the bar, underneath the bar at the knee. And the reality of it from that standpoint is I'm looking at it going like, how could that be classified as a safety bar? I had to literally hold myself into the seat on this ride. Never rode it again. And not about to. It's one of those rides that I would never get on. Kind of like the one I was just talking about. But the reality of it is that, and we are, by the way, yeah, apparently, well, obviously you guys are here, so apparently we are live. Where are we? I don't recall if I said anything. But, yeah, we are sitting right now at 279 subscribers, which I am not going to complain about. I mean, quite frankly, I'm surprised I've got more than 2, but that's just me. Now, anyway, I was saying, I was looking at getting into how healing itself, as in working with energy itself in order to straighten things out. And then a couple of days ago, I got thinking about it. And I noticed a link between people having excess weight. And I'm going to put it that way. There are a lot of other ways you can put it. But I mean, some people will be only 5 pounds over and figure they're absolutely obese. And it's like, no, that is not a weight problem. That's a weight fluctuation. At least for me, it is. Like, I've been tracking my weight rather severely. I'll be checking again tomorrow. I think, anyway. Sometimes I miss a week. I keep an eye on my weight, and it can fluctuate a couple of pounds a day. But most people, what I got thinking of is there's got to be a psychological link, because everything your body builds, your body can correct. Uh-oh. Well, that's an interesting question. I just noticed, Elaine, you've mentioned no sound. Does this mean you're not picking up sound, or are you still hearing me? I'm sure hoping so. I'm gonna go back to this for a second and just see something. So pardon the background noise because I'm turning the mic on here, or the speaker on my end. Oh, great. And thanks, Dogface. Appreciate that. Technology and I still argue with each other. The background noise because I'm trying to Okay. Yep, technology does. Okay, perfect. I appreciate that. I still argue with technology, or it argues with me. I don't know. And it turns out now, because of some of the contacts I'm making, I'm starting to get people reaching out regarding doing, regarding other shows and what have you. And thus far, in the last couple of weeks, I've had actually two people reach out, two groups of people reach out about potentially going on to a documentary on TV. Now, whether or not anything comes of it is anybody's guess. Okay. The point being, I've told people a long time ago, doesn't really matter what the topic. I've been dealing with consulting, with dealing with different outlooks. I had an interesting call the other day that somebody was really into understanding a different look at the way at what God is, where he comes from, the whole 9 yards. And the neat little part about it was the individual that contacted me, they themselves were oh, okay, I see. Yeah, I understand what happened now, Elaine. Yeah, there was a little period there where I just sat there quietly and, my system isn't running right. But this gentleman that contacted me to ask me about the origin of God, the origin of Jesus, and the origin of the Mother Mary. This individual was a very staunch, a self-admitted very staunch Christian. I do appreciate that, Lawrence. The reality is I came back to this world, to this lifetime, for one simple reason, and that is to let everybody know that working together, we can make this a better world for virtually everybody. Now, I know there's going to be people that are going to be upset about it. Okay. I responded to a post that was on Facebook the other day. And I mean, I'm really, I kind of look at the posts and go, most of them I ignore. But there were two a couple of days ago that I did respond to. Emails, on the other hand, I do my best to get back to. Unfortunately, I missed some of them. But the two in question, I had one person from the gay and lesbian community. And what they posted was, I hope all of you, and I'm just paraphrasing, I hope everyone that does not fully support the gay and lesbian community has an absolutely miserable day. So I turned around and all I wrote was, congratulations. So you're just like the massive majority of people. It says, way to go. There's unity for you. Right. The other one that I got a real kick out of, and I did bite my tongue on this one, but this guy that was clearly heavily into religion put a post, and what he said is, Satan is looking for you. Right. So, of course, and this is where I bit my tongue. I didn't say anything. Right. I just thought it. And this person, they said that the first thing that went through my mind was, it's like, well, of course he's looking for me. I breached his restraining order again. So I bit my tongue on that one. I did not type that. Right. But then right after I closed that one down, another thought came to my mind. Wait a minute. Do you mean, are you really that close to Satan that you're his messenger now? Now, I left those two alone. I did not post those. I simply thought about them. And then I bit my tongue. And the following morning, I simply wrote, that can be answered in so many ways. And I left it at that. Now, from my standpoint, I take a look at it. I'm quite willing to let people, do what they will. But that said, within reason. I mean, I follow only 3 laws. You know, be true to yourself first, do unto others as you desire them to do unto you, and energy out, energy in. Okay. Now, the advantage I have over a lot of people is that I don't have to remember 17,000 laws. I remember 3. But no, the biggest thing, and this is, I really should get on with this side of it. I got thinking about it. There's a staggering problem with people that are overweight right now. And I'm talking about their own health. Now, absolutely, there are a number of things that'll cause being overweight. Okay. The ones that I do feel for really are the people that have a thyroid problem, the people that have adrenal or pituitary problems, where they are physical medical complications, where they may only be able to be controlled by diet, or not by diet, but by medication. Now, I'm a firm believer that naturopathic medicine is better for you. Yeah, so do I, Lawrence. But there's nothing wrong with liking food, but there are some things. See, naturopathic medicine is, in my opinion, it is a safer, healthier way of doing things. But modern medicine, as in pharmaceuticals and what have you, work faster. Okay, and therefore, you think about it. You break an arm. The natural method is brace it and let it heal. And but modern medicine has a definite use. I use it to take up room in my cupboard, but that's another issue. I don't take a lot in the way of modern medicine. I mean, I do keep aspirin around because as I mentioned to Lawrence there, because he was the first through the door. Last night, my temperature and my blood pressure spiked to a staggering level. I think it was something in the high 180s over the high 90s, which is dangerously high. Right. So I do keep aspirin in the house. Now, my understanding is that the root of aspirin is white willow bark. But, and I heard somewhere along the way that you can't even buy that anymore. So go out to the tree, find yourself white willow. No, don't do that. Okay, there's all kinds of complications that can go there. But I got thinking about it. The people that have a weight problem because of physical medical complications, yeah, you're going to need assistance. But most people that are overweight, aside from just having this issue of, I like food, and I'm not one to tell people, like my best friend second to me, years ago was close to 400 pounds. We spent lots of time together. I've got nothing against people that are overweight. Do I find them attractive from a personal standpoint? Frankly, no, but that's me personally. Okay, but that was what brought me to drop my own weight, because a year ago-ish, I was 246 pounds. I hit the point and went, I'm not going to break 250. Okay, I'm just not going to do it. Because, many people will tell you, I'm comfortable at like 400 pounds. And like, no, you're not. I can say, and don't get me wrong, you undoubtedly, if you're that kind of weight, I mean, if you're 7 feet tall, being 400 pounds isn't as bad as if you're 4 feet tall. Okay. But the thing with weight is this: it adds excess stress to your body. But what causes it, aside from the idea of I like food, and as Lawrence puts it, I like food. I like it a lot. Quite frankly, I never developed taste buds, but my metabolism was so high that it was so high. How high was it? I used to eat literally 4 times what anybody else in my family did. So I never bought and I never gained any weight. Made up for it later. But what I found was that there is an underlying cause of the problem. Okay. And that problem is usually some sort of trauma. Either you're being told, it could be something that really happened that was absolutely a forced problem. Yeah, it is. It's a very big boy. But he is one of the, this individual is one of the nicest people I've ever run into. Not literally. The really neat part about him was, on top of being that size, he also had a black belt in Taekwondo. Right. Which, I mean, now here's the type of friend that you really want around. This guy is, like I said, I'm my own best friend, and I'll explain that at another point. But this guy, on top of being my best friend, so to speak, right? He was just shy of 400 pounds, a black belt in Taekwondo, and a specialist in. He was literally an expert in demolitions. No, correction. He was an expert in explosives. Just to make matters worse, he was also a clinical, and still is, a clinical paranoid schizophrenic. Now, how's that for having somebody to have your back? But no, the reality of weight is this. Most people that end up putting it on, and I'm no doctor, what they end up doing is they put the weight on to protect themselves from somebody. Many people that have gone through some sort of a trauma, the big one that people don't like to talk about, and apparently certain politicians think it's just kind of an overstated problem. People are taking it too seriously. But people that have been raped, most of them raped or had a lot of sexual harassment because of their appearance. If they take it the wrong way, if they take it to heart, many people will put on weight. This is a way of stopping other people from finding them attractive, and therefore keeping people at a distance. Now, I'm pretty certain that you all read that you know somebody that fits that bill if you yourself don't. But I talked to a staggering number of people that go, I really would like to get rid of the weight. Okay, and the nice part there is it's actually doable in pretty short order. Okay, but we have to understand there's medications out there. The weight loss industry has it built, in my opinion, with one fatal flaw. And that is this. If you're striving to lose weight, the natural tendency of people seems to be, when you lose something, go out and find it again. Morning, Carl. How you doing? When you lose something, most people have a tendency of immediately going and looking for it. Okay, and trying to find it again. Well, the problem with weight is when you go out and find it again, it usually has company, which is why you get these curves that do this. It makes curves that do this instead of curves that do this. Your call as to which one you're happier with. There's also people, of course, when you go to the male side, the curves do this more often than not, if the person is into bodybuilding. Personally, I'm not into bodybuilding. Okay. I look at it going, if you've got the weight there because you're feeling overloaded, because you're feeling like, yeah, I know that feeling. I used to be an emotional eater too, but I was either most of the time it was because I was awake, and therefore I still to this day only eat one meal a day. Right. Problem is, I eat one meal that starts when I get up and finishes when I go to bed. I'm constantly on the go. But people put on the weight to keep other people away from them, to stop the advances, to make themselves less and less attractive. The only drawback there is it works from a social standpoint. It does nothing for the people that are interested in raping somebody. Okay, because much like gun control, doesn't stop the people that actually want a gun to shoot somebody with. It stops the people that are on the fence. Okay. When you're putting on the weight, it's to create a barrier. Now, I mentioned, and this is why I said I found a link between excess weight and excess clutter. Okay. I have been for the better portion of my life rather reclusive. Okay. Oh, nice. That sounds really good. The only thing I don't understand, Carl says he's got lentil curry homemade. Now, my only problem is, and I've never really looked into it, curry, I know I like. Mild, really, like I prefer the mild side. But what I don't know is what the difference is between lentils and something else. You know, man, if that were the case, I'd be eating a lot more. If I was still in that frame. What happens for me on occasion is I'll get bored as I'll start eating. But what ended up happening is I got looking at it going, okay, that's the way that overeating happens. But how does that link to clutter or to becoming a hoarder or becoming a pack rat? Some of it is educational. Like if you look at my bloodline, starting with my grandfather, okay, who was born in 1902, every member of my bloodline became a pack rat. Okay, and I was until I was 56, so 3 years ago. But I became very reclusive because I couldn't deal with people, so I pulled away. And what I found when I got looking at it the other day, it's like, okay, why did I end up with all this stuff? Well, the reason I ended up with all this stuff is because I wanted to build a physical wall. Realistically, you collect a whole pile of stuff to put a barrier there. Okay, to create a situation where not only do you not want somebody to come over because, well, my house is a mess, I don't really want anybody seeing it. Okay, the reality in all likelihood is more along the lines of it's more along the lines of I don't want you coming over because I don't want you coming over. This is why when COVID hit and they said stay away from people, I'm like, great, I don't have to give an excuse anymore. I don't have to come up with a reason. I'm being told stay away from people. In other words, just go over there and I'll be happy. But people tend to put stuff around them. And yes, part of the problem, a major part of the problem, really, is the media as in advertising. And I mean advertising, whether it's word of mouth or what have you. We're taught that stuff makes you feel better. Well, I'll tell you, it really doesn't. What stuff does is it clutters the energy flow. So of course, I got looking at this going, I've been disposing of stuff for the last 3 years, but understand I spent 56 years gathering it. So there's a lot to go through. Okay. Like if I don't think you can see it here. Not really. Like that, you see that shelf there is right on the front of my desk. That's because everything behind it now is absolutely jam-packed. But people gather stuff to create a barrier around them. Now, we can talk until the cows come home about, yeah, he got comfortable. Yeah, so did I. I find now, Dogface Boy he's just mentioned. I love being able to stay home for 2 years. I find it hard to get up and go to work now. I got comfortable being lazy. See, I had no problem with the being lazy. Although people tell me I'm not exactly lazy, I'm writing 31 books at once. What I am short of is knowledge on how to market. But that's another issue altogether. People gather stuff around them, and in order to create a physical wall to keep people away. Okay. And net result, it chokes the arteries of your home and of your house. Okay, much like food will choke the arteries of your body. stuff chokes the arteries of the physical. Hold that thought for half a second. As I said, I don't live on my own island. Give me half a moment. Okay. That didn't happen very well. Well, actually, it did. Thought I heard somebody knocking on my door, but apparently not. And yes, now you know I'm as I put it, I'm not exactly a fashion statement. You know, but no, people gather stuff around them to keep people away. Problem is, when you pack your house with stuff, when you can't walk comfortably down the hallway, okay, what you've essentially done, picture yourself being your blood. If you're eating too much, your blood will thicken, you'll clog the arteries, and you run into troubles. You can't get where the blood can't get where it needs to go. If you plug the arteries of your house, if you plug the different areas of your house with stuff, you can't get through it. And I've taken to looking at the house. I appreciate that. The funny thing there, dog face, is this. My father, I'm pretty certain this is why I hang on to them. I told my other half, yeah, I'll remove the beard. Right now, I mean, she can't see it anyway, but the reality is I'll remove the beard. I'll bring the hair shorter. My hair used to be all the way down. If you look at my old videos, right, my hair used to be all the way down past my elbows, right? But like I told her, the hair itself didn't really matter. The sideburns, on the other hand, my father had them. And I'm pretty certain that's a way of just simply hanging on to, holding on to that memory. Not entirely certain why, don't really care why. Doesn't hurt anybody, so I just told her flat out, I'm not removing them. But when I broke during my vlogs, I've broken the house into two component parts. Thank you, Simon. I appreciate. Well, it's easier to remember anyway. Mind you, the reality of it is, from my standpoint, it's not an issue what I call people as long as it's polite. I mean, I've been called so many things over the years, but no, I appreciate that. The nice little part, and I will do my best to remember your name. The sad reality for names and me is if I don't write it down, quite often I'll forget who I'm talking to. Except, when I meet people face to face, I'll remember it, and it is getting better. But no, I broke the physical house, the physical place you live, down into component parts regarding both the home and the house. Now, the house is pretty cut and dried. Okay. The house is literally the physical place you're living. Okay. It's kind of like your body is the physical construct of the body. The home is what it feels like inside. Thereby, the home is actually the way, the inner workings of the organs. Now, with that in mind, what I came to understand is we take a look at the office, wherever you work on your finances, because money doesn't care one way or the other how you're feeling. You ever notice the bills still mount up whether you're sick or whether you're not? Whether you're sick or whether you're healthy, happy, sad, doesn't matter. If you're a millionaire, the bills still add up. If you happen to be gay or you happen to be bi or whatever, the bills still add up. They don't change. The insects don't care what you look like. Okay. They're still going to come into your home. That's just the reality of it. So the house is the physical body, but when we take a look at the home, we're talking about the way it feels inside. Now, in both of these environments, the brainchild, the you yourself, fall into the category of the cerebral cortex of your house and home. Okay, and the way that applies, you always find the common denominator. Well, guess what? You are your own common denominator. Doesn't matter what's going on around you. Since you cannot control the way other people think or what other people do, and you can only control your own actions, your own outlook, and you can control your reaction to other people. Therefore, if you find that you're putting on weight or that you have put on weight because of a trauma, you may be sitting there looking at it going, I put on weight, but I don't know why. Right? Then when you start looking at your past, you find out, oh, look, I had some pretty severe emotional trauma regarding my weight, or, either because my weight was too small, it was too low, or I was too attractive and was getting way too many comments and way too many, harassment issues. But there is a problem with the harassment issue. Okay. Like, for instance, and no, I've never had a problem with it personally. But in my eyes, if I see somebody who has, and the reality is, I don't tend to talk to guys like this, primarily because of the fact that, well, don't take this the wrong way, guys, but really, you don't do anything for me. Okay, but if I see a woman that's got nice looking hair, and I tell her that I like the way her hair looks, right? That's all I'm referring to, and that is all a lot of guys are referring to. It's the geniuses out there that are taking that as a subtle hint that, gee, I'd really like to get together with you. And I'm not going down that road. Okay. But we take a look at your house. It's the physical construct. Okay. Especially if you're renting, there isn't much you can do with it. But the home, the way you feel, and this is where the connection between the real solid connection between people that have put on excess weight and people that have excess clutter. People that have excess weight are putting a barrier up, a physical barrier that more often than not is problematic to your health. I know my eldest brother, who just passed, spent the better portion of his life overweight. Okay, or as he put it, he was just shy of 6 feet tall, right? And he topped out the worst I saw him get to was 450 pounds. Okay, now he made the comment one day because people were giving him a bad time about his weight, and he looks at them and he says, "I'm not overweight. I'm under tall. I should be 8'4". But that was my brother. The reality of it is, whoops, I don't need that in my way. It gets in the way. The reality of it is that people put on weight as a way of protecting themselves. Okay. But what it does is it creates undue physical stress. Okay. It clogs up arteries. It causes heart problems. Blood pressure goes through the roof. The list goes on and on. Now, I'm no medical doctor. Okay. But when I decided that I'd hit the peak that I was going to, I got looking at it, and I did start off, and you'll like this one. I don't remember what the medication was, but I watched these videos and these ads that said, "Oh, we've got this new medication out that will help you drop the weight." Well, it worked like a charm. In less than a week, I had a heart attack. And all the research they had done, they had documented it all, they backed it all up. Okay, and it seemed to be reasonable. But the complication to it was real simple. Okay. It was supposed to help your metabolism burn off the excess. And of course, there's other people out there that'll tell you, look, the old method of exercise and cutting down on what you eat does not work to lose weight. Because here's the real reason that you're gaining weight. It's got nothing to do with food and exercise. Well, I'll tell you, I just look at it from a logical base. Okay. If your weight is too high, if you stop putting food in, and this is nothing against people that are, if you're comfortable, great. If you're not running into medical problems, great. I'm not the one to say whether your weight is too high or too low. I mean, I got a kick out of it. I'm 5'8", and according to the doctors, I should be only 145 pounds. This is what the professionals have said, which is a wonderful thought. But considering the fact that right now I'm 200 pounds, just barely over 200, and that might be dropping before I check my weight next. Well, I'm hoping it is. Anyway, that's the idea. You know, the funny reality of it is, can you picture me now? Right now, I'm at just barely over 200. Picture me being 60 pounds lighter, and just think about whether or not this makes any functional sense. Ouch. Yeah. Yeah, you know, Simon, and the reality is this, you know, yeah, you stop, you know, beer is great. And God knows I drank way more than my fair share. My claim to fame was actually rye. And yes, I used to drink what my favorite is, and my favorite rye still is Crown. Right. But I drink anything. The problem was my metabolism would handle it quite nicely. But I do absolutely agree with you. You know, I'm very belated, but my condolences regarding the loss of your father. You know, I know what that feels like. I went through it myself. But you know, when you're like I was told, you know, these new doctors are coming out going, "Oh, exercise and cutting down what you eat." You know, isn't going to help. I went, that doesn't make sense. If you're putting less calories into your body, less proper calories, your body will burn off the excess fat. It just works that way. Okay. Now they told me, no, that won't work. You know, and the nice little part about it. Hey, Wendy, how we doing? Yeah, just to really quickly bring you up to speed, Wendy, I've discovered, and I'm no medical doctor, but I've discovered a definitive link between being overweight, like having too much weight, no matter how much, and collecting clutter. Now, I was told where it came to losing weight, right, that it doesn't work if you cut down on your food intake and you exercise. Well, I got news for you. I have been averaging, now there's these medications that tell you, oh, well, you can lose 40 pounds by the end of the month. Certainly, I have no doubt you can. Of course, when I tried the medication, it was just designed to accelerate the metabolism a little to help burn the weight. Because I hit the 246, I went, no way, not going any higher. But what ended up happening was I got the medication, I looked into all the research, it all looked great. Okay. The nice little part about it was I got the medication, I got onto it, and less than a week later, I had a massive heart attack. Now, I call it massive. In all fairness, the ambulance wasn't called. But that's because I refused to go to the doctor. Not a good way of living, by the way. Really dicey idea. But I was on the medication, and like within a week, I'm having a heart attack. It's like, okay, take the bottle of medication. It's like, well, that's in the garbage because I certainly don't need that. You know, so I simply started watching how much I was eating, got a little more physically active. Now, of course, having a bad leg, I'm not getting that physically active. But I will tell you, these people that tell you can lose, these medications, oh, you can lose 40 pounds within the month, certainly you may be able to. But the damage that it's going to do to your liver, because that's where your liver and kidneys have to process all this excess you're getting rid of. If you're doing it that fast, the damage that you can do, and I'm not a medical doctor, so do your own research. But the strain you're going to put on your organs is staggering. The other little problem is if you lose weight at that speed, you're going to end up dropping. You're going to end up with a whole pile of excess skin. And personally, I find saggy skin even worse looking than the excess weight. Yeah, see, and I mean that works, and I've got nothing against. I've got no reason to say this is good, bad, or indifferent. Obviously, you do something like what Wendy has done. Okay, you know, when what Wendy did was took a gastric bypass, and that result dropped a lot of the weight. But undoubtedly, you make that kind of major medical modification to your body, and you're going to have to deal with it. Oh, okay, perfect. Well, not perfect. I do feel for you. But, Wendy's just saying the bypass did not work. Okay. And, from my standpoint, it's kind of like this. And the same thing applies to the clutter in your house. If you're trying to drop weight, or let's look at it this way, if you're trying to empty out a cesspool, okay, so you're bucking stuff out of the other end. This is great, but if you're still pouring more stuff into it, it's not going to work well. Okay. Yeah, you've got to, and you got to be careful on that one, Carl. I was talking to somebody the other day, and they literally told me, if it's natural, it's good for you. My immediate response was, a cup of arsenic, it is natural, but it may not be in your best interest. But the reality is, if you're putting more food in, more calories into your body than you're getting rid of, okay, then you're going to put on the weight. If you're collecting more stuff than you're getting rid of, you're not going to get rid of the clutter. Now, of course, the issue around the clutter is this. There are people, at least up here, according to the medical society, if you can walk down your hallway, then you're not a hoarder. Okay, if you can get through your hallway, you're not a hoarder. Well, here's the thing. That's like the doctors turning around and going, by the way, if the blood can squeeze through your arteries, you don't have a weight problem. Now, needless to say, the medical society won't tell you that. They'll tell you quite literally. I've seen them go, oh, there's this little bit of a jump. You're up 2%. You've got a problem. We got to get you on medication. In my eyes, and for me personally, I tried the medication route. I actually utilized medication to hold my blood pressure at a stable point. Although last night was a bit of a scramble. Last night it skyrocketed. Okay. Oh, speaking, we're talking about water here, and I heard something. I saw an ad the other day, and I would love somebody to tell me how they pulled this one off. Now, this is just straight water, straight normal tap water. I put it in the freezer, freeze the thing, add a little more water. I got cold water. But here's the thing I saw an ad for, and I do not understand how anybody could come up with this, and much less how they would come up with it, but how you would go around and try and market it, and why people would buy it. Do you realize that on the market today, there is something called diet water? Now, how in tarnation are you supposed to have water that's a diet? I mean, water is absolutely necessary. Okay, my dietitian turned around and told me because my coffee's so weak, I don't have to worry about the amount of coffee I drink. Most people will take most people, try that again. Most people will, when they're drinking coffee, will take a 12 cup pot and put 3 to 4 tablespoons in. I take a 12 cup pot and I put 1 tablespoon in. My dietitian looks at me and goes, well, you're just basically flavoring the water and you're doing nothing, so carry on with it. So I've actually got a dietitian telling me it's okay to drink lots and lots of coffee. Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at this, Yeah, dandelion tea would be great, except I don't have any clue. From my standpoint, I don't have a problem with the idea of dandelion tea. I should have gotten into it when I was a kid. We had a yellow lawn because of the dandelions. But what I found I was doing where it came to the physical world is I collected a whole pile of stuff. And I mean, I literally, and it worked out well in one case. I was so good at collecting stuff. I had an old stereo years ago that broke down. Right. So I pulled the thing apart. I kept the wires. I kept the springs. I kept the screws. I am not mechanically inclined. Okay. I am not a tradesperson of any functional form. I mean, if I drive a nail straight, it was by accident. I mean, the intention was there, but the aim wasn't. Right. So I turned around and I looked at it, and there's no question, that you can do things backwards. This is just the way that I've dealt with it. But I found, because I didn't like people around me to start with, I'd collect more and more stuff. But it got so bad that literally I could walk into my house and it looked like a warehouse. Right. As in, there were boxes of stuff, but I knew where everything was. Okay, so you can use that issue of I don't have too much stuff, I know where it all is. I literally, because of my tendency to pack rat. Okay, and in my opinion, here's the difference between being a pack rat and being a hoarder. A pack rat will keep stuff it may be broken, as in it may be in bits and pieces, but it's physical stuff that does have a use for somebody. This was brought to light very clearly when I was renting a place years ago, and the sump pump in the basement suite I was in blew. And I was talking to the landlord, and he goes, "Well, I've got to get a new spring, and I don't even know if I can get one." I said, "Well, what does it look like?" So he explained what he was looking for. I said, "Hold that thought." I went into my storage unit, right? Went through a couple of boxes, pulled out a spring, and brought him back the spring from the stereo, and went, "Will this work?" And he looks at it and he goes, "Yeah." So a little bit of a tweak with it, but he fixed the sump pump. This is what I mean by you keep stuff that may be of use. I ended up with buckets of nails, buckets of screws. Like I said, I'm not trades inclined. I mean, heck, where it comes to mechanics, I had to go and find out which canister under my hood was supposed to be used for the radiator fluid. Okay. So, I mean, that's what a pack rat does. What a hoarder does is they keep physical garbage, banana peels. I knew of a real serious case where they had 7 dead cats in their house. They were all cats that belonged to them. Okay. But they had 7 dead cats. Hoarders keep garbage. Okay. Pack rats keep junk. It may be broken, but you ask a pack rat, well, I'm hang on to that because it may be needed. And I have proven beyond a shadow of a doubt to myself that is the case. But I've come to the conclusion I don't desire all this stuff around me anymore. I'm actually doing my best to get out a little more socially active lately. Right. I mean, like many people, when the lockdown happened and I was told, stay home, stay away from people and drink warm liquid, I'm thinking, well, let's see. I don't like going around people. I'm reclusive and I got a 30-cup urn. I'm good. Yeah. It's very difficult to watch people. And this is one of the reasons why I decided to go this route. When you're looking at getting rid of stuff, okay, people go, well, I've got so much junk. Where do I start? Okay. Well, where you start is the easiest point. Okay. Where you start is right in front of you as far as the physical getting rid of it. But the mental problem is the bigger one because you've gathered the stuff around you to keep people away. Okay. Absolutely. Yeah. Carl goes, so having a beer with a balanced sweet potato lentil curry. I made this afternoon Irish stout. Well, can't argue with your taste buds. I'm finally starting to develop some.
but it's a mindset problem. Okay, because you cannot control how other people think, and you cannot control what other people do, at least not on the whole. There are people out there that have that capacity, but on the whole, you really can't. What you do have the capacity to do is you control your own thinking, your own actions, and your reactions to other people's actions. Right? I mean, I was talking to one individual who somebody made a comment to them. You know, somebody first of all had made physical advances, and they were not welcome physical advances. And then, you know, a little while later, so they put on a little bit of weight. And then the person that made the physical advances made a comment that this person put on a little weight, right? And the person turned around and immediately started putting on a little more weight. Because what happened was, psychologically, the person made unwanted advances and then said the fact you're gaining weight is making you less attractive. Well, so, you know, final solution, put on more weight, they'll leave me alone entirely. Okay, problem there is the damage to your own body causes problems. Now, I know when I was at 246, I always walked with a limp. Always. I still have a cane because I've still got a bad leg. But you start dropping the weight and your physical body will start to respond properly. Same thing with the house. If you're collecting garbage, you know, or if you're collecting junk and you're feeling, you'll find a couple things happen. Okay, the weight thing, the more you weigh, the less energy you have, the less likely you are to get up and move. All of a sudden it becomes much easier to reach over and grab something that tastes better. Because I mean, I'm the first one to admit that water itself does not taste great. The reason I'm not drinking coffee today, and I will be drinking coffee, it's not like I've cut it off, but I figured I'd flush my system with a whole pile of water this morning. Because much as it doesn't taste great, there's a neat little trick to that. I add more often than not lemon into my water. Okay, lemon doesn't add calories. Lemon juice doesn't add calories, and it makes the water taste better than the chlorine. And you know, Wendy, in all fairness, that's very much the case. And here's the thing with the clutter around the house. Okay, I was talking about this a little earlier. The clutter around your house is like the cholesterol in your veins. If you've got clogged hallways, the hallways are in your house, in your home, they are the arteries. If you cannot move through them easily, you're going to feel more lethargic. So you may be feeling depressed. You may be feeling, a lot more irritated, a lot more emotional. Okay. But here's why. Okay. When we look at it, I've talked about this on the journey. When you look at Feng Shui, which talks about the maneuvering of energy in your house, in your home, the energy has to be able to flow. Well, the more stuff you have, the more it deadens the noise, which absolutely works. But here's the kicker to it. If you're playing music, upbeat dance music is the one cure. And yes, I call it a cure. I am not a medical doctor, so try it out for yourself. If you're feeling somewhat depressed, if you're feeling really lethargic, find the fastest paced dance music you can and crank it up. Crank it as high as socially acceptable. If there is a noise bylaw in your area, pay attention to the bylaw. Okay. Now when I went to lose weight, I've been dropping it steadily at about 1.5 pounds to 2 pounds a week. Yes, you will plateau on occasion. It annoyed me when I plateaued for almost a month. But when you turn that music up, what it does is it brings your energy level up. It jumps the chemicals in your own brain. This is not using an added chemical. Okay. What this does is it turns around, it increases, I think it's your dopamine that goes up to make you feel better. Now, the problem, crank the music up as high as you want, as high as you desire. You're going to feel like moving, but if your weight is extremely high, you're going to have trouble getting up and dancing. I gave up dancing decades ago because, well, frankly, I've got a leg that just shuts down and I got tired of picking myself up off the floor. Besides that, I didn't like the way I danced because, well, frankly, I've got the rhythm of a hurricane, which, by the way, has actually a really good rhythm to it if you ever listen to one. But you may feel like getting up and moving. If the house is cluttered, you can't move through it. So even if you desire to get up and dance, and even if you're in really good shape, if you've got stuff all over the floor and you've got only like a square inch of room sort of thing to move through, you're not going to be able to move very quickly, even if you'd like to. Okay. It's like maybe you're overweight by even 10 pounds and you don't feel like you can run because you're overweight. Drop the weight, you can move. Clear the hallway, you can move easier. Okay. And these are all connected because it literally boils down to the way you feel about you or about your home. Now, here's the thing. If you take a look at the axiom and just think about this, see if this fits, that the home, that the way your primary living area or primary working area looks is a direct result of the way your mind is, of what your mind is doing, or of the way you're feeling. Okay. Now, if it is a reflection of that, does it not stand to reason that the mind is a reflection of the way your house looks? If your house is really cluttered, if your house is really, is really difficult to move through, or if you look at yourself and you see these rolls of fat off of you, okay, then you're not going to feel great. Now, myself, as you can tell, I'm not what we call built. This is not much of a build, but for me, that works. I'm not going into bodybuilding. Okay, but if you're looking at yourself going, that doesn't look right, you're not going to feel as energized, as driven to do things. Okay, so it's that mindset that links the overweight and the clutter. So when you take a look at it, okay, and you modify that feel, where do you start? How do you get started on it? Well, the first thing you do is and I know I've shown this before, but this is why I keep it handy, because it reminds me, and the fact it reminds me, I've got a memory of a gnat. But that little sign, okay, is the thing that is the backbone of it. You decide that you're actually worth putting the effort into. Do not worry about whether or not you're good enough looking to attract somebody else. Okay. I want to be better looking so I can attract somebody. The fact of the matter is, the person that is actually attracted to you is not necessarily going to be looking at what you think they are. Okay. But the way you feel and the way you look will have a direct bearing on how you carry yourself. Now, people talk about this thing about clothing makes the person. Okay. If clothing is what makes the person, there is an interesting snag here. Oh, let's go back to the other thing for a minute. If the mind is a reflection, if the physical world around you is a reflection of your mind, then is it not reasonable to assess that the state of your mind is a reflection of the physical world around you? Well, I don't know about you, but from my standpoint, I find it so much easier to modify the physical world than it is to modify the mental one. Now, here's the other thing. We are taught right from the get-go. We are taught to get to that change is difficult, change is scary, change is painful. Here's a neat little thought. Everything I've said, everything anybody ever says to you, and every time you think
Okay, and I mean, just think, never mind uttering the word. This is all change. Now, unless you're currently laying on the ground, writhing in agony, my guess is the pain in the change is not painful. If you desire to change something, here, we're going to do the easy thing, and this applies to dropping weight and clearing clutter. I'm not content with my bottle, with my water bottle in my left hand. So I'm going to change it. Now I can think about changing it, and you notice that had a lot of impact. The thought is a cute idea. If you turn to Christians and many religious communities, thinking is as bad as doing. Okay, well, if that were the case, if it's as bad as doing, then it's also as good as doing. So if thinking is the whole key to it, then my thinking that I desire that bottle over in my right hand is a great idea. So you notice it changed just because I thought about doing it, because that's what was just as good. Okay, Carl, I'm going to make a note of that. The answer to your question, Carl's just asked, have we talked about the numbers with numerology and gematria and gematria effect with the Vatican? I haven't spoken to the Vatican personally at all, but I've got this list of different topics, and I'm just making a note of it right now. I'm not about to say this is why I'm going to deal with it, but I do have numerology on my list. But I'm making a note to deal with numerology and the Vatican. I'm going to actually have to look into what gematria is. Okay, because I frankly don't know what the gematria effect is to start with. So I'm just making a note for myself. I used to be able to do this with my left hand. Now, unfortunately, since the stroke, I'm having to start over. But I will look into that, figure out what the connection is, and I will discuss that down the road. Okay, but you think about, I desire this bottle to move from my left hand to my right. I would rather it in my right hand, so I'm going to think about it because that's as good as doing it. I'm not sure, but I'm not getting a lot of water out of the bottle over here. Okay, and Wendy is just adding for me here. It's the Hebrew number. It's the Hebrew number something or another. Oh, okay. It was a question. There we go. Gematria effect news. 24, 22, 20. Oh. I will absolutely look into that, Carl. You're going to have to give me a little bit, but I will get to it. It's like somebody else asked me about a Tartarian lifetime that nobody talks about. Tartarian life, by the way, is life in what you would know as hell. Okay, and yeah, I do have it listed. I'm going to go into numerology and how that affects a lot of things. But if thinking about changing something is that important, is that effective, that bottle would already be over here. I could get a drink. There's a problem. You have to back your words. You've got to back your thoughts up with action. Now, which is easier? Thinking about having that move over, or which is more effective is more to the point. Okay, thinking about it moving over, or moving it to my other hand. Now, you notice I had to think about getting it there to start with, but if I didn't do the physical action, it stays put. Okay. Now, the same thing applies to the physical and to the mental world. When you go to drop weight, that's the first thing you have that is absolutely imperative. We're taught to lose weight. Change that concept and focus instead of focusing on losing weight, focus on either dropping weight or discarding weight. Okay, because even with clutter, you lose something, you're going to go looking for it. And I don't know about you, but when I actually lose something, more often than not, I find something I forgot where I put it in the first place. Thought he had something. Oh, he moved it. Oh, that's because that's not his. Anyway, when you get it in your head that you're going to change, but you're the one that's going to have to do the work. Okay. Now, the reality is, where do you start? Well, where it comes to eating, you start with the idea that, yeah, if you're putting less calories into your body than what you're burning, your body's going to burn off the weight. Now, like I said, my recommendation, and I am not a medical doctor, I looked at it and went, if I'm losing 1.5 to 2 pounds a week, meaning I'm dropping 4 to 6 pounds, yeah, 4 to 6 pounds a month. Okay, at 4 to 6 pounds a month. Okay, I'm looking at least 10 months to drop 40 pounds. Okay, now bearing in mind that your weight fluctuates. Well, I was at 246. Last Sunday I checked my weight and I was at 202. I was at 2022. Okay, so I set a goal for myself for the end of this year to break 200. To break 200, I'm heading southbound. I do have a definitive goal. My father was absolutely clear before he passed. He says, you get down to, if you get to 180, you stay there. He says, you don't go any lower because it's dangerous for you. Now, let's face it. According to the medical doctors, I should drop to 145 at my height. Well, I'm not losing another 60 pounds because I don't think this is going to be a good idea. So when it comes to the clutter, take a look at your house. Okay, take a look at your home and just look at wherever you're sitting. And this is where that list comes in. You literally look at the layout of your house. Okay, and go, what am I not content with? Pick one spot. Now, maybe you've got a room that's completely a shambles. Or maybe your entire house is. It doesn't matter. You put one book back where it belongs. Okay, one step at a time. There's an African proverb that goes, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. An extrapolation of that. How do you move a mountain? One shovelful at a time. Okay, it's all done one step at a time. It didn't take you a day and a half to get where you are. At least not with a little bit of luck. Okay, in most cases, it took you a fair piece. Okay, so it's going to take time to sort it out. Now, I've got paperwork over here, and what happened was I started sorting it out and going, I'll sort that out later. Professional procrastinator, put it in another box. Next thing I knew, I'd thrown out one box and I had 3 that were still full. Right. Not an effective way. So now I've laid it all out on my desk, on my painting station, and gone, okay, now it's in the way. I will deal with it one paper at a time, and it'll go where it belongs. Filed, discarded, disposed of, whatever. Okay. See, the neat part about it, is when you're absolutely the only people, Simon goes, disclaimer, we do not condone the eating of elephants on this show. Well, from my standpoint, if it's an endangered species, we have a real requirement to protect them. Yeah, if we don't protect the animals around us, okay, as I heard it put one day, those, the strong, those that have the most, those that have the strength, protect the ones that don't. Well, elephants are extremely peaceful animals, and yet idiots, and I call them that quite readily, okay, that kill elephants just to get their tusks and leave the rest of the meat to rot is a massive problem. Okay, hunters that go out, and for you hunters out there, this is a really cute sidetrack. I was talking to a lady one day, very against hunters, against hunting. And you got to give her credit for her thought process, but you really got to question it at the same time. I was talking to this woman and she goes, all hunting should be banned. People should not be allowed to go out and hunt. They should only get their meat from grocery stores where animals are not killed. And I'm thinking, it's like, did you think that through?
technically she's right. There is not a grocery store I know of where the animals are actually killed in it. But no, the neat part when you're looking at getting rid of clutter, when you take a look at a disaster, and this is why I put this book together. Most of what I've done, I put together in paperback form somewhere. This particular book holds the backbone of that. But what it boils down to is this. Okay, that's believe in yourself and follow your dreams. It boils down to this. You're sitting wherever you are right now. Look around your house. Are you content with the way your house looks? Are you happy with it? If you aren't, put it on your list and break it down into small tasks. The big thing about it is when you look at a room that is an absolute disaster, it's very difficult to figure out where to start. So you start where you're standing. Okay. I've talked about the hallways being the arteries. Now, hallways are usually the least cluttered of the area. No, you're not invited in here. Got wasp debating whether it wants to come in. I've got the window open and no screen doors. But, what the heck, or no screens on the window. But you take a look at where you're sitting and you literally, that's an interesting idea. But the Jesuits don't control that. Carl's saying here, Roman Catholic Church, freedom of speech, Jesuits control the numbers. They may control which ones get utilized, but they certainly don't control the laboratory rate of them. When that is very much the case, Wendy. It's just one step at a time. If you can't do it all at once, pick up one book, put it away. If you can't do all the dishes at once, because there are some people whose body literally won't let them. So you get up, you wash one dish and put it away. Okay. Make sure if you're putting it away, dry it. Okay. Otherwise, you get all sorts of other side effects. But it's all done one step at a time. And you start, like for me, where it came to my weight, I went, I'm not putting any more weight on. I made the mistake and tried one of these newfangled medicines. Bad idea in my eyes. Of course, I've got reason to call it a bad idea. I tried it and ended up having a heart attack because of it. I'm not trying the rapid drop again, but I am consistently losing 1.5 pounds to 2 pounds a week, which means it takes time. Okay, but I didn't put on the weight in that fast. It's easier, by the way, to put it on than get rid of it. It's kind of like it's easier to collect junk than get rid of it. Okay. Carl, that's a debate that could get really complicated because, I have seen it happen, but it's a real toss-up whether the religions control the governments or the governments control religions. And I can get into that at a later date. Okay. The thing that I'm looking at is this. Whether it's the state of your body and the excess that you've got on your body, or it's the state of your house and the excess you've got around you, it's dealt with the same way, one step at a time. Now, I happen to have, I used to have an analog scale, but I've got a digital one now that measures in tenths of a pound. And I look at it going, if I'm dropping even 1/10 of a pound, I'm happy. Oddly enough, minor sidetrack, when you're looking at your saving at your bank account, if you're gaining at the end of the month, if you're up, once everything's dealt with, if you're up even a nickel, it's a climbing bank account. This is what you focus on, those little gains, one step at a time. Okay. And it applies to the whole 9 yards. Okay. The nice part about what I'm looking at, and because I refuse to look at this issue of going, this group of people is better than another group, or this type of people are better than another one. Okay. The tools I'm talking about are ones that I don't care how much money you've got. I don't care what religion you are, what orientation you are, who you voted for. It doesn't matter. These tools, as near as I've ever found, work. Okay. And Lord knows if they work for me, I'm certainly using them.
Okay, there are certain things that are not going to work for that I can tell people how to do. I've got literally thousands of people that have figured it out. One that have tried them and come back and said, yeah, it worked. Okay, because you take a look at the path society is on right now, and it is going down a massively negative line. Okay, but one person changing their outlook is not going to solve the problem. It's kind of like one drop of water in a river changing the way it was going. It doesn't correct the problem. It will in time if that's a stubborn enough drop. It will affect the people around them. The drops around it, net result, the river changes. But we don't control the energy of other people. You control your own. Okay. But I did find whether you believe you can drop the weight or you believe you can't, whether you believe you can get out of the cluttered mess you're in or you believe you can't, either way, you're going to ultimately prove yourself correct because you're the only one that can do it. I can tell you these methods work. I can tell you I've utilized these methods. And I can tell you that with that in mind, you can alter your life. Okay, but it's up to you to do the work to do so. So we take a look at the house. Your hallways essentially are the arteries of your house's body. Okay. Take a look at the home. Your arteries are the hallways are the arteries. Okay. The brain is your office, wherever you're working on and wherever you primarily work on your finances. And if you don't work on your finances, that may be part of your problem. Okay. Just thinking. Yeah, I like the idea, Carl, because you are essentially right. Don't cross your legs for more than 10 minutes. It stops blood flow when relaxing on a horizontal surface. Well, much as that is correct, the odds of my actually paying attention to it, well, in all fairness, I don't usually sit still long enough to cross my legs or sit still for 10 minutes, which is kind of an interesting situation. Even with my hobby, which is playing Dungeons and Dragons, I don't sit down at the table much. Yeah, I still play tabletop. Makes sense, Carl. I do that. You'd be amazed how much I talk to myself. Actually, it may not be. But when you take a look at the way your life is, if you're not content with it, if you're not content with your weight, I will tell you, it didn't take you a day and a half to get to the weight you are. Okay. You lose a limb, it can be done like that. Okay. And sad to say, if you lose a limb, you're going to have to learn to cope with it. The odds of growing it back are not good. Is it technically possible? The answer is yes. The reality of it is this. When you take a look at your weight, if you're not content with it, understand all the medical records in the world. Now, I'm no doctor, okay? But when you look behind all of them, if you just look at the caloric intake, if you're not putting as many calories into your body as you are burning them, you'll end up dropping weight. The key factor is that you have to look at the idea of making sure that the calories you're putting in are effective calories. There is such a thing as putting in, I need calories, so I'm going to grab a bottle of pop, which granted has a lot of calories to it. Or in the adult versions, you grab a bottle of beer. See, I used to drink Ryan Ginger. Of course, I switched. I originally drank rum and ginger, rum and Coke. But I found when you mix the rum and Coke, it was rum and Coke. It had rum and Coke, 80% rum, 20% Coke. Bad mix, but it did put a lot of calories in. Okay, it does put calories. Problem is that they're not effective calories. So I switched it from 80% rum and 20% Coke. I decided that wasn't a good idea, so I started drinking 80% I cut it down to 20% 20% rye and 80% ginger ale. Again, pop. Not an effective calorie. Okay. Well, I'm glad you managed to catch us here. I was trying. I mean, I'm glad you're enjoying it, Wendy. The reality of it, from my standpoint, effective calories. I am no dietitian. I'm a firm believer if it isn't moving, it's probably edible, given texture issues. Okay. I never did develop taste buds to speak of, but I was not a healthy eater. And yeah, contrary to popular belief, right? This idea that people are pushing, oh, you've got to be vegan. Meat is bad for you. Bad news. The human body, no matter what gender you are, the human body requires meat. It is an omnivorous organism, and replacement and substitute medication, substitute foods don't have the same quality. I knew this from practical experience. I've tried some of the substitutes that people have said, "Oh, this tastes just as good." It may taste as good. You can fool taste buds with spices. Back in the Middle Ages, they would soak everything in heavy spices, so you couldn't tell the food was bad. Well, the same applies today. Okay. I mean, my mom years ago, and zucchini is a good food for you for if it's done right. But my mom, when we first got to the Okanagan Valley, she'd never had a zucchini. So we ended up with zucchini, and she went, "Well, it's a zucchini. I'm going to cook it just like I cook turnip." Well, if you know anything about food, cooking zucchini like you cook a turnip is not a good idea. It was one of the few foods that I literally could not eat. Mom turned around. Mom turned around. She cooked it like turnip, cut it up in cubes, and boiled it. I'll tell you, that was a bad idea. So yes, taste can be modified. There's no question. Simon, my best friend put it one day. He says if the vegans ever get to make eating meat illegal, he said he's going to start eating vegans. Another person told me that he does get his share of vegetables, right? The cow eats the grass, so he eats the cow, and by extrapolation, he's getting his vegetables via the cow. Now, personally, I'm quite happy about the whole idea of I like meat, therefore I'm eating it. Okay. But I found out something really intriguing when I tried going more onto a balanced, more of what they call a balanced diet. For me, it boiled down to this. If I cut the red meat down too far, my body goes into a tailspin. So I'm not doing that anymore. Wish I knew a hunter that I could get fresh meat, game meat from. But because I can't go out in the woods to go hunting, I'll get lost. But you take a look at what you're eating, and you will find that you're feeling better if you eat proper. Like, one thing I found is this, where it came to the food. Now, I ended up, I switched over to cold cereal and what have you. Lots and lots and lots of sugar in cold cereal. Okay. But because I couldn't cook properly and I could never get the measurement right, I ended up with when I was growing up, Mom always had to have porridge in the morning. Not cream of wheat. Cream of wheat I cannot stomach. Even according to my dad, I could never even stomach pablum. Okay. Yeah, I get a kick out of that. The funny part, yeah, when he goes, yeah, I'm just not a vegan at any level. Well, I figure I'm a vegan at the point when I go, okay, well, today I'm just having French fries. I'm just having potato. Of course, the fat is made out of something. But, there is this issue from my standpoint. I got nothing against people that have their own diet line. Okay. Personally, I like the flavor of blood, which is why I end up eating, when I get steak, I end up getting it blue rare or rarer, because I like it that way. But that's me. Some people can't even tolerate the look of blood, but where it comes to the weight side of it, you literally, like I was talking about porridge. I could never get the measurement right. Okay. Until somebody finally pointed out, I was talking to them about it, and they told me a specific type of porridge to get that's got quinoa, it's got flax, it's got, I think, 9 different grains in it. Right. But all I do with it, because I don't add sugar to it anymore. Okay. And this is how I drop my blood pressure, just like that. And I don't know if it'll work for anybody else. It worked for me. Of course, a major heart attack, I walked out of the hospital less than 24 hours later. So my system may not be the most effective, medically speaking. But where it came to the porridge, all I do is I take a half cup of that, okay, of a cup of water, and I'll measure out the half cup of the porridge, put it in the pot, measure out a cup of water, put it in the pot, bring it to a boil. As soon as it gets to a boil, I'll turn down to simmer and throw in a half cup of actual blueberries. Whether they're fresh or frozen doesn't matter. Okay, at least not from my end. Because let's face it, if they're frozen, you throw them on the stove, they're not going to be frozen long. Okay. Yeah, yeah, exactly, Wendy. I grew up in a small hobby farm. So I remember the idea of chickens running around with their heads cut off is very real. Of course, it was also on that farm that I found out the rabbits bark, which was kind of comical. But I do that, and by doing that with the porridge, I eat that twice or 3 times a week. Every 2 or 3 days, really. Right. I've cut cold cereal almost completely out of my diet. Net result, my blood pressure collapsed. It dropped, contrary to the doctors. It dropped without medication 40 points in 10 days. So, will I sit here and say, for me, that worked like a charm to bring my blood pressure under control? Absolutely. Not a problem, Simon. When I was a kid, we had 2 white albino rabbits. Okay, and they were probably 3 feet long. They were not little rabbits, but they got out of the hutch one day, and we had to catch them. So we chased them under the house. I finally cornered the one underneath the house, and I thought all they did was make cute little kind of nicking sounds, kind of with their teeth, just kind of a clicking sound, until I cornered this thing. And all of a sudden, it rears its head back, and I kid you not, this thing barked at me. I'm like, what is that? And then I got thinking, it's got to be somebody from Monty Python. You remember the carnivorous bunny? But yeah, rabbits bark. It is and I'll tell you, underneath a mobile home, it echoes. But it absolutely, they do. It is funnier than heck to listen to it after you get out of the panic shock of what the heck just came out of that. I'm chasing a rabbit under here. I was not looking for a dog. I was terrified of dogs at the time. So, of course, having a rabbit bark did cause some problems. But, the reality is that if you're putting the right food in, okay, you will drop the weight. There's no question. Okay, people can tell you, oh, here's a medication. You can drop 30 pounds in 2 weeks. Yeah, probably can. Of course, you could also drop, 15 pounds by cutting your arm off. This is not a good idea. Okay, it boils down to, can it be done? Certainly. If you've got a whole pile of clutter, you can throw everything out. That was how my parents used to get us to clean our rooms. Okay, you got a choice. You can go clean your own room, or I will. And she'd have a black garbage bag in her hand. Now you've got the choice. You can do it your way. My way works for me. Okay, and like I said, this is a tool I personally have used. And, in the last year, based on 4 to 6 pounds a month, and 4 to 6 pounds, 4 to 6 pounds a month, with a little bit of a climb in the middle of it, I've dropped over 45 or over 45 pounds. No, over 40 pounds in the last year. And I'll tell you, I feel a staggering amount better. Where it comes to your house, where it comes to your home, start with the shortest, clearest hallway. I'll tell you, the reason for it is because those little successes are what make it easier to get to the bigger ones. Okay. Well, Simon, my dad used to say, it's a bad day if you can't learn something new. But you start with the shortest hallway. Now, let's say, like, I looked at it, and in my book, in Believe in Yourself and Follow Your Dreams, I lay it out real simple. If you're trying to clean your living, if you look at your living room and you go, I don't like that, I've got to get it cleaned, but you've only got a certain amount of energy to work with. Break it down into smaller jobs. Okay. Oh. Give me 5 seconds. I will take a peek at that. Because I'm buried most of it, but let me see. I will take a peek and think about that for a minute. I've been doing very little painting lately because I had to get my office sorted out. But I will make a point next Saturday, as a matter of fact, just to be absolutely certain I do it. I'm just checking to see what date next week is because I want to make an accurate note for myself. Notes work for like a charm. The 18th. Okay, so June 18th. I don't know what the topic's going to be at this point, but I will have some figures out that I've been working on, some very specific figures that I've brought out to show. Okay, well, I've got some that are actually duplicate, so I will take some time to show what I've been up to there. My apologies for not having them right handy, but let's face it, things can get real screwy. But that's why I figure I'll make notes for myself as I go along. Where it comes to the living room. Now, like I said, the hallway is the arteries of your home. There is a 3-chamber heart in your home. These are the 3 areas to focus on to start with. Okay, where it comes to the heart. Because as you know, if your physical heart buckles, you're not going to live very long. Well, if the heart of your home is really clogged up, it's not going to work very well either. It'll block the energy all over the place. So you've got your brain, wherever you work on your finances, and the heart of your home. Now, the heart of your home is a 3-chamber heart. Your living room, your dining room, and your kitchen. Those 3 together make the heart. Then you've got your office. So the primary artery that you want to look at is wherever you work on your finances. Make sure if there's a hallway between that and those other 3 rooms, that hallway is your primary concern because that takes the energy and that clears the energy flow. So what you're thinking of accomplishing, you can do. Now, the reason I know this works is because while I've been doing this, up until March of this year, okay, I was living 1 paycheck away from living on the street. 1 paycheck. Every month I worried, is my paycheck at the end of the month going to be enough to cover rent? By changing that thought line and by clearing out the clutter in my office first, in my brain, And I'm talking only the section of my office that I work on. Okay, I've got 4 monitors, a printer, my phone, and a little writing desk. Okay, and that's it. And of course, my keyboard's sitting here. So I got that cleared up. Then I went out and straightened out the hallway between my office and my living room, because my living room, dining room, and kitchen are all connected, right? So I needed that hallway cleared, right? And that hallway also took care of the hallway to the front door, which, by the way, the front door is like the mouth to your home. That's where information comes and goes. That's where your food comes into your house, is through that front door. So your primary artery to look at is from the brain to the heart, and from the brain and the heart to the mouth. Okay, that'll clear the artery out. That will get the energy feeling better. Now, the neat part about it with that is, if you don't believe me, that's okay. If you haven't got those areas cleared up, clear them out. Test it for yourself. Do not just take my word for it. I am not the perfect authority. Let's face it. I've been called a lot of things, and being perfect is not one of them. People have told me I'm an expert in certain fields, but when I was growing up, it was pointed out to me that an expert is simply an unknown drip under pressure. Okay. Now, I know an awful lot of unknown drips that are absolutely useless. Okay. The doctor that dealt with me when I had my massive heart attack was about as useful as a screen door in a submarine, so I went home. That's a whole different ball game. But I have an issue with doctors. Okay, they do not understand my healing rate. I have an issue with people that turn around and say, I've got an issue with a lot of people, it seems. The people that turn around and say, I'm a medical professional and I'm telling you, not eating as much won't solve your weight problem, but buy this medication. Now, I do not have anything at all against the pharmaceutical companies. Okay, the way I look at it, more power to them. More power as in, if they desire to make a kind of medication that'll do something, absolutely what they're doing is working. But here's why I've got no problem with them. They'll turn around and say, here's a medication. I don't have any medication bottles around me, so we'll use this one. Diet water. It's a really good thing. I still have no idea how they pulled that one off. But what the pharmaceutical companies do, and everybody's up in arms about it. Everybody's up in arms going, well, the pharmaceutical companies are the problem. Are they really? Here's a medication. This is diet water. I like that. It's a cute thought. You can see I'm really impressed with that. But, you take a look at it, they go, here, this medication will help you do whatever. Here's what it'll do for you. Here's this one thing it'll do. Oh, by the way, here is a stack a mile high of the things it'll do to kill you. Yeah, it'll solve this problem, but it'll kill you in the process. It's a good thought. But they're being upfront and honest. They're telling you this is what it'll do to kill you. And then they're turning around and saying, please buy my stuff. Now, therefore, they're being honest. Why am I going to blame them? If you're the one wanting to buy the medication without doing the research, that's your decision, not theirs. Again, you have control over what you do, what you say. You have the free will, the free choice, the free will to make your own decisions. What you don't have is freedom from the consequences of your decisions. So once you get the artery between the brain and the heart, now you take a look at the other things. Okay, you take a look at the waste removal, which, by the way, is usually split into 2 or 3 points. Okay, those being the bathroom, well, however many bathrooms you have, and the laundry room. Anywhere where you're doing the cleaning, okay, where you're disposing of refuse. You may have a garbage room. Okay. Some people do. This is kind of like the bowels, kind of like your bowels and your bladder. That's where the garbage goes, also known as, by the way, prior to that, probably more closely linked to your kidney and your livers and your kidneys and your liver. What processes the toxins. Okay, but you clean out the arteries and all the hallways. It is absolutely imperative you clear out. Okay. Yeah, and that's just it, Wendy. You're in a very condensed place. So if we take a look here, because Wendy's saying her kitchen and dining room are all together, and since her office is in the dining room, that's pretty much where she lives. I've got a setup here that is absolutely brilliant for me. 3 bedrooms, 1 floor, no yard work. I've got literally 2 full baths, and I've only got 1 munchkin living with me. My 17-year-old son is living with me. But this is roughly 1,000 square feet of room, right? With my rent being only just over $1,000. Now, that's not a bad setup. It's probably closer to 1,200 square feet of room, maybe 13, now that I bought a storage unit. So I'm still, even with the storage unit, I'm only paying roughly $1 a square foot rent. And if I have a problem, I phone my landlord. Beautiful setup. But you clear out the arteries to get the energy running. Because I will tell you this. Leave your hallway a cluttered mess. And try and make it, if you don't have a master bath. Okay. Try and make it down the hallway to the bathroom in the middle of the night without turning the lights on. If you've got stuff all over the floor, you'll find out whether or not your floor is cluttered. But the thing is, it's a mindset. And many people, myself included, I used to live in a warehouse. So the only people that would ever set foot in my place were people that were already in the same mindset. Usually pack rats, and sad to say, there's a real correlation, it seems, between pack rats and old-style tabletop gamers. Okay, we live in warehouses half the time. But the thing is, it stopped other people from wanting to come over, and as well as stopped me from actually desiring them to come over. Worked out rather nicely for me. Okay, but this is why I say there's a direct link in the mindset. If you're striving to keep people away, you're either going to put weight on your body, which, by the way, is medically dangerous for you. Okay, I know this. Whether you feel good, like I listened to one person, she was on a talk show, and she was already 600 pounds. And get this for a really brilliant comment. She's sitting on here on national She's sitting here on national television, and she tells the host, "Yes, I'm 600 pounds, but my goal is to be the heaviest woman in the world." Now, what kind of a goal is that? I mean, to me, that's just absolutely twisted. I mean, it's one thing to desire to be able to pick up more weight. As I told my other half, right now, I can barely curl 20 pounds. Well, one arm curl 20 pounds. I don't even know if I can. So, am I going to be working on my strength? Absolutely. But I've got a goal in mind. I desire to be able to actually easily, I'm going to build my strength level up to be able to easily lift 150 pounds. Now, why such a definitive, that's what you're aiming at? It's very simple. And it's a little backwards in some ways. But right now, I would have trouble picking up 50 pounds, partially because my leg is a problem, but more of it is because my arms are. But the reason I'm going to start building my muscle up is not to get some sort of phenomenal physique. It's a very simple reason. I desire when my other half finally gets here, okay, to be able to really easily pick my other half up. It's just that simple. Okay. Now, I don't have to become a bodybuilder or anything else to do it. And again, it starts off one step at a time. Okay. When I first started doing my exercises, I literally couldn't reach my knees. I couldn't bend my back over far enough to reach my knees. Okay. Now, because I've been doing this regularly, and when I talk about exercising to help drop weight, okay, when I talk about exercising to be able to drop weight or to be able to be more mobile, when I first started exercising, I couldn't reach my knees. I can now reach the floor with my fingers bent like this. Now I'm 59 years old and I'm able to put my second knuckle on the floor without bouncing to get there. To just lean down. I'm not going to show you. Sorry, not going to happen. Okay. But I am looking at it from the standpoint of I desire to have the flexibility to function. The stronger I make my leg, the less likely it is to buckle on me. And I will tell you, with a bad leg, dropping 40 pounds, my leg does not hurt half as much. Where it comes to the clutter, as you can tell, eyes don't work entirely well. Clear the clutter out of the hallway. I no longer trip over stuff in the hallway. This is why I say these things work. Okay. I no longer have a problem when somebody comes into my house. Yeah, sometimes I've got a few dishes on the counter. Okay, because I don't necessarily wash them all right away. Sorry, my bad. But then, I walked into somebody's house one day and they literally told me, "Oh, pardon the mess." And I looked at them and I said, "Oh yeah, I forgot to tell you, I'm here from Home and Garden." I'm not one to tell people, "Is your house in proper order?" I'm here to say, if you're not content with it, yes, I do know the steps to help you see a way out of it. Okay, to find a way out of it. I was talking to somebody yesterday. They're on the verge of going Chapter 11, of going bankrupt. But like I told them, here's the way to get around it. Can it be done? The answer is definitively yes. But I've gone through the road of having been forced into bankruptcy by listening to professional financial people. Okay, I went to bankruptcy trustees to figure out how to deal with things, and twice got guided into bankruptcy by a so-called professional. And maybe this is where my holdup of people telling me that I'm an expert in things. Maybe this is part of where it came from. The first time I was guided into bankruptcy was on a $6,000 debt. 6000. That's it. The second time was on 14,000. Okay. Now this is just absolutely stupid. The reality behind bankruptcy is great. You spent too much money, but the only people, in my opinion, that get and that make any headway, that actually get money or get ahead by you going bankrupt, it's not you, and it's not the company or the person you borrowed the money from. The only person that actually benefits from it is the bankruptcy trustee, who you can bet your bottom dollar is going to charge you something to do all the paperwork, and so they should, in all fairness. Okay, but I mean, you think about it. I was what I considered overweight. I used to carry a basketball around essentially underneath my shirt. Although I did have a different way of looking at that. I remember being in a bar one day, and this guy would come in. He was absolutely a powerhouse. It looked like he was a power lifter. And he started, posing and showing everybody, look at me. And I got fed up with it one day, at this point. And understand, I was already overweight. In my eyes, I was overweight. Okay. And I looked at the guy and I said, "I'll have you know, sir, I have the body of a god under this shirt." And the guy looks at me and he goes, he says, "What do you mean you have the body of a god under your shirt?" I said, "Yeah, the guy's name's Buddha." Well, the guy clammed right up and walked away. Thank you so much, Simon. I do appreciate it. I've been the weight route. I've been the pack rat. I'm still in the process of dropping the weight. I've still got I am aiming at dropping another 20 pounds in the long run. But my goal was to break the 200, and that I should do within the next week, which means I'm about 6 months ahead of my own goal. Okay, where it comes to the pack rat thing, I took 56 years to build that. I'm good at it, and I still have problems with it, but I am going through it. I was throwing out paperwork the other day, and this will give you an idea how good of a pack rat I've been. I opened up an old box of paperwork from 2004. Okay, this is how good I got at it. But when you look at it, are you collecting the stuff because we're taught to be afraid? We are taught to fear everything. Okay, and we'll get to that again at another time. But we are taught to fear everything, fear lack. So we're told, collect all this stuff, keep all this junk around you, this stuff that you never use. There's a philosophy that goes, aside from Christmas decorations and actual keepsakes, if you haven't used the thing if you haven't pulled the thing out of a box in a year, the odds are you don't need it. You don't require it. Now, I'm not suggesting take your box of stuff that you haven't been into and throw the whole thing out. Lord knows there's some treasures in there that you forget about. Okay, there are some absolute treasures that are locked in there somewhere. Okay, and I do encourage you to go through it, to get rid of the clutter, to clear the arteries, to clear the rooms of the junk, the stuff that you don't really require. Like, you'll notice this shelf over here. If you see my office at all, it used to have a lot more on it. Well, I've taken a lot of the inventory and moved it out to storage. I keep enough so that any of the books, and you'll find the books that I've got written listed below this video. Okay. Now, I've got to make a modification to what I'm writing, what I've written there, because of one little detail. The price that I've got that says shipping included covers it. Literally, I can tell you it covers continental U.S. and Canada. I do not know what if there will be a bigger charge going to other parts, going to other parts of the world, because it depends on what the mail is. Okay. But the way I look at it, especially when it came to the finances. Like, if you look back, if you've listened to the journey to my YouTube channel, if you've listened to it, I mentioned that up until May 1st, I was charging for consulting fees in any field. Okay, I was charging $180 an hour. I got caught up in the same stupid maneuver I see so many other people. And yeah, I call it stupid because we know better. You keep pushing up your prices, you're going to drive the cost of living up. It's just a natural side effect. So I did the one thing that no other company I've heard of has done. I turned around on May 1st and I took my bill of $180 an hour and I sheared it to $90 an hour. Now, I've got in excess of 40 years now in the consulting field. So, do I charge more than some people? Certainly. But as I'm telling you, every tool I offer somebody to deal with a problem they're dealing with, if it applies to my life, I use it. If it doesn't, I don't. The one tool I've given to hundreds of people that have reported back and given me feedback to say, yeah, I no longer smoke, is I've given people the tool to quit smoking completely without withdrawals. Okay. And without forcing themselves to go cold turkey. But I found a method that works. Now, the reason I've never used it is because I never personally started smoking. And I am not about to start that. Okay. The nice part about it is when you get your mindset straight and you go, okay, I'm no longer content for me. And that's the only time you're going to change this. You can go to every doctor on the planet and they can tell you, you've got to lose weight. If you don't sort out the mess, you're going to have problems. You've got to do this. Okay, it's for your own health. Well, I will tell you,
until you feel it here, until you're looking in the mirror going, I desire to quit. Okay. I desire to drop the weight. I desire to get rid of the clutter. Until you get that feeling here that says, I'm going to do it for me, you're not likely to change. Now, you may. Some people have a stubborn streak that they can do it. Okay. I've seen a lot of people where they go, well, I want my kid to go to university. I'm going like, why? Well, because they've got to get an education. And the reality is, yeah, you do. If you're becoming a doctor, if you're becoming an engineer, if you're becoming a physicist, absolutely you need the higher education. If you're not going down those roads, you require basic reading, basic math, okay, and basic writing skills. That's it. Okay. The rest of it are life skills that you require. And sad to say, they're not teaching that in school much, at least not around here. I don't know what they're doing in your area. But until you get that drive here, thinking is great. And the path that these changes take place in starts up in the etheric level. Okay, starts way up here. It gets to your thought. It will hit your brain first. Okay, because you get this thought, gee, I desire to drop weight. Then you'll go through, then you'll do a little bit of poking around. But until it gets here, until you get to that heart that says, I have this drive, this pull, this calling to do this, you're not going to get very far in all likelihood. I do hope you do. And some people are stubborn enough they can. Myself, it never worked. Okay. When I hit that point and went, I desire to drop the weight. That was where it started. Now, I've been bringing my markers down every time. Right. I started with, I'm not breaking 150. I'm not breaking 250. I'm heading for 240. When I hit 240, I hit the marker down a little lower. Same thing applies to your house. Start with wherever you're sitting. Pick one thing that you're not content with. Write it down. You don't have to know where your life is heading. You have to know whether you're content where your life is. That's the critical factor. Because if you think about it, when you start changing the energy flow and you alter what you're not content with, if everything you change that you are not content with, you change it to the point that you're content with it, all you're left with is there is a life that you're content with. I'm not the one to tell you if you're content. Okay. Myself, I'm not content with these. However, I'm not about to throw them out just to make other people happy about it. I am working on improving them, on improving my eyesight. It used to be a question, and this is why I say that the tools I offer do work. If I was holding my glasses right there, I could not physically see my glasses at all. Right. Now I've got 20/20 hindsight for reading. 20/20 hindsight. 20/20 vision for reading. Yeah. No doubt. Simon turns around and goes, I quit smoking because in Australia it's about $48 for a pack of 30s. Well, I'm sorry, but that's highway robbery. The reality is if they wanted you to quit smoking, they quit putting the addictive chemicals in it because tobacco itself is not addictive. But when you get that drive right here, that's when it'll change. Okay. Have I started, I decided it was going to change. You think about it, my hair was down, used to be down past my elbows. Right. And then I cut it up to the shoulder. And I talked to my other half one day. And I says, do you prefer long hair or short hair? And her immediate response was, well, she says, it's not a make or break deal. But she says, since you're asking, I prefer shorter, but I don't want you to change it just for me. I said, no, you don't get it. I was going to cut it anyway. Okay. But the reality is, if you had liked it longer, I'd have left it that way. I'd have left it down around my shoulders. At this point, it's a little shorter than I would like. But give it a week or two, it'll grow out. Right. But you have to make the changes. Like, you have to be true to you first. If you're content with the way your weight is,
If you're content with the way your house looks, absolutely leave it as is. I'm not the one to tell you. I will not look at somebody and go, oh, you're a worse person because, because of this. I will tell you, if you're calling people down because their house is in worse shape than yours, I will tell you that makes you a problem, not them. I had somebody doing that one day, and of course, I'm a little bit off kilter. I looked at the person, and because they were complaining that the person's house was dirty, and in all fairness, it was. But I wasn't about to sit there and tolerate somebody going, "Oh, you're such a scum. You've got such a dump here." They made the comment, and I looked at them and I said, "Wait a minute." I said, the person said, they literally said, "I keep my house so clean you can eat off the floor." I looked at the person, I went, "You know what? You can eat off anybody's floor. Just some people you get a better selection." Now, yes, that's a backwards way of looking at things. But from my standpoint, it boils down to this. If you're content with your life and you're not breaking the other 3 laws, you're not harming other people, animals, or plants. And by the way, this neat little idea of hunting and what have you, let's face it, it's easier to eat a cow if it's dead. And I don't know about you, but I'm just not interested in eating it live. So you take a look at the link, and the link is literally a question of a barrier between, to put a wall up to keep people away. It may be a mental wall on your own. Okay, it may be a physical one. But there are ways to turn that around. And through the course of, during the vlogs, during the journey, I will be covering bits and pieces of these things as I go along. It just sort of depends on what mood I'm in when I get up. When I get up in the morning, as to what I'm going to do. But I have got a schedule for myself now. Okay, and with that in mind, we are at a point, we're hitting the 10 o'clock mark. That being said, thank you so much for joining me today. I will be in here again next Saturday from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. Okay, and again, Wendy, thanks so much for joining us. I'm really glad that you found us. Okay, I will have some of the figures for next week. Don't know what the topic is, but I will make certain that I have some of the figures here. Okay, that one I will manage to pull off. I've already got a note for it, and that's how I keep in order. Now, with that in mind, I'm going to call it a day. I've got a bunch of other things I got to get done, and I'm sure you've got a lot of things you've got to do. So I will be back again tomorrow, this afternoon sometime probably, with the journey. I will be back again tomorrow and back, daily with the journey. On Saturday, I'll be back 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Until then, take care of yourselves and each other. And for pity's sakes, stay positive.